them all to shine. I'd like to introduce you all to the young shining stars that we have amidst us today. Saikrit Gulati is a class 8 student of St. John's High School, Chandigarh. Till now, he has authored 3 books: Indian Monuments, A Golden Heritage, Gardens of Chandigarh, and The Emperor Who Ruled Medieval India. He has also edited the book Amrit Kalam in collaboration with GMSSS NAS, where he has been voluntarily teaching since 2019. Please join us on stage, sir. Our second speaker, Manpratap Vashisht, is a class 4 student of Learning Paths School. When not studying or debating in a classroom, he enjoys football, cubing, coding, and being in stories. Please join us on stage. We also have Jaiveer Singh Katyal, who's a 14-year-old student who started writing, and the fallen kicked him when he was just 9. He also expresses himself through illustrations, comic strips, narrative art, etc. Please join us on stage. Our moderator for the session, Angel Aluwalia, is a grade 11 student of many talents. She is a singer who loves to play the piano and indulge in painting. Writing comes naturally to her. She has been penning articles for the Literary Digest. She is also a passionate scriptwriter, actor and director. Her directorial debut for a comedy play, Proton Vets Profit, was staged at a school event. Please join us on stage, ma'am, and may we please have a huge round of applause for this young panel.
I'm Angel, as I've been introduced, and I am so honored to be here in front of all these dignitaries and personalities and writers and authors. And I must say I have some humongous shoes to fill after I watched all these interactions. It's my first time, so I'm being kind to myself, and I hope you guys are kind to me as well. I'm so excited to interact with these young authors. Can we have a huge round of applause for them? Being an author at such a young age is truly remarkable, and I also should say that I'm kind of jealous, because I'm also aspiring to become an author, and I'm kind of jealous, and I'm also inspired. I'm more inspired. So let's start. I would like to start with you. I read your book yesterday, in fact, because I just got it, and I must say, your book is the most adorable book I've ever read. Okay, so it was so cute, and it was full of illustrations, and it was just adorable. I loved it so much. And okay, so I have one question for you. How did you get the idea of Superman? Like how did you get the idea of the title?
There is Superman, so like my name relates to it. Like there's just 2 words, 2 letters are different, so I got that idea from it.
So you feel lucky that your name is Man, so you could just connect it.
Yes.
You like DC? What? You like DC? DC comics?
No, I like Marvel more.
Okay. So I have another question for you. We'd like to know which is your favorite story amongst all the stories you've written in it.
I really like it. What do I like to read?
Which one was your favorite story that's included in your book?
About my cats.
Okay. I love cats. I also have my grandparents have a cat I visit it every week, and I love it so much. It scratches me all over, but I still love it. So I can relate. Okay, so I saw lots of illustrations on each and every page. It was very different, and it was very colorful and vibrant and unique. And what's the story behind those illustrations?
The website only helped us on the illustrations.
That's very.
We have to find them.
Like reading your book made me want to inside your mind and take some creativity from it because it was so cute and so creative. And do you have any ideas for your next project?
Not really.
Not really. I had it. So much fun. Thank you. And now over to you, Sakrit. It's very nice to meet you.
Thank you.
And
For me.
thank you. And it really reflected to me that you are into heritage a lot because it obviously reflects in your book. Your book about Chandigarh gardens and it could really be used as a tour guide. Okay, me being born in Chandigarh and living in Chandigarh, मुझे खुद नहीं पता था हमारे gardens के बारे में. मैंने आपकी book पढ़ी. I was really, informated and all. So I want to ask this question: which garden is your favorite garden and why?
My favorite garden is the Fragrance Garden of Sector 36 in Chandigarh because I think that's one of the most silent gardens and one of the most important qualities which we see in a garden is its serenity, and that's what I find in there, and that's why it's my favorite.
Personally, I've only been to Rose Garden, so do you have any memories associated to that which makes that your favorite?
Yes, actually I have often gone there. Especially in my holidays, I used to have a stroll around the park, and that was the first garden which I covered for my book with the photograph.
Lovely, lovely. I feel so informed after reading all your books, and I know you love heritage and culture and all. Would you like to pursue a career in that in the future?
Yes, surely I would want to write more on heritage and culture because I feel that's the need of the art, that we need to know more about our own history and culture. We in India are proud to have such a 5,000 year and more of history, and I think we need to know about it as much as we can, and that's why I want to spread all that I can about history and culture.
Definitely. So, okay, this question I'm most excited about. Which historical figure would you like to meet and why?
I would like to meet the Mughal Emperor Akbar because I have been personally most fascinated by him and his policies, especially at a time when he preached religious tolerance, and that was one of his most important messages. And secondly, he inherited the throne at my age only, so I want to learn how he got that courage and that bravery to lead the empire at that time, at such a tender age.
So, okay, this is a very weird question, but have you visited all the gardens?
Yes, I have personally clicked their photographs for my book, and that's how I got the information from the information that was given at those signboards in those gardens. And when you go to a garden, you actually get to know much more about that place. So that's why I've gone to all the gardens that I have covered in my book.
मैं कहती रहती हूँ मुझे यूरोप जाना है, मुझे यहाँ जाना है, वहाँ चंडीगढ़ ही नहीं घूमा. अब मेरे को चंडीगढ़ घूमना पड़ेगा आपकी बुक पढ़ने के बाद. And thank you so much. I had so much fun. Okay, so now over to Devi. I was doing like age-wise, so yeah. So it's a pleasure to meet you, Javeer. And your book was really, full of surprises, twists, and suspense, and it was really fun to read it. And although I didn't read all of it, but I read most of it, and it was so much fun, and it's really impressive. Okay, so are the characters inspired by someone you know in real life?
Not really. Most of the characters I just made them up myself, but I think the concept of the two twins, the double force, it's inspired by my imagination of me if I had another twin. I have an elder sister, but I'm just imagining what I would be doing with another twin brother my age. So I think most of the stuff they do, it's inspired by that.
So would you want your book to turn into a movie someday?
Honestly, most of the time when I'm writing down stuff, there is a movie going inside my head. All the plots are planned out like a movie, and I'm watching that movie, and that's what I pen down. So of course I would love my book to be a movie. That is the
I can relate. And you could cast me in that.
Sure.
So, reading your book reminded me of Nancy Drew, Hardy Boys, Famous Five, and all. So, did you have any of those back in your mind while writing? And would you want your book to be that famous someday?
Of course, I'd love it to be that famous. And yeah, it's a lot of it is inspired by authors like Enid Blyton, Rick Riordan, Roald Dahl, Ruskin Bond, and J.K. Rowling, and authors like that. I must confess that reading is a great source of inspiration for writing. So yeah, it's inspired by all those characters.
Can we expect sequels?
Honestly, I was planning on writing a sequel to this book. I already have 4 or 5 chapters written down, but then I disbanded that idea and I'm working on another book. And also have another project which is a compilation of short stories. And the reason I don't want to do a sequel to this book is because when I published this book 3 years ago in 2020, I had my brain was in a totally different zone, and I think I've evolved a lot since then. I can't relate to the concepts I used to write, Adolescence hit me. So yeah. I can't really see.
What's brewing in your mind for your next project?
So currently, I'm still carrying on the concept of the twin brothers, but they're like 2 different characters, and they're not twin brothers. One is elder, one is a little younger, and they're orphans. So the elder one has to take care of the young one, and it's basically a bit into the mind of the elder one. And it's also like a fiction, sci-fi. I'm into like 5 or 6 chapters in that. I hope to get it published by this year, like 6 or 7 months.
That's great. Okay, I have one question for all 3 of you. So, what's another genre you would like to experiment with? Like you would like to write in that genre?
Can I answer first? Okay. So I think I'm already venturing into a new genre, writing short stories. And I really like writing short stories because sometimes when you have a concept or a plot, you don't want to sit down and write a 70, 80,000 word novel on it. And it's just really relaxing and relieving just getting out what you want in 3 or 4 pages. So yeah, I'm getting into short stories. I enjoy writing short stories.
If I were to say, I've been writing a non-fiction for all my 3 books, but now I would like to go into fiction and especially into horror and crime stories because I've always been interested in those, in horror ones.
I like to write about fiction because I only write about the real life that I spend. So that.
Okay, thanks for writing a novel currently, so maybe you will be interacting with me next.
I need a video of me explaining rap lyrics to a group of elderly people. So honestly, rap lyrics are looked down upon in the lyrical world. Everybody's like, they don't make sense, it's just whatever. But honestly, it's like really meaningful. So like the artists I like and the lyrics are really meaningful. And there's one lyric I'd like to tell everybody about. You won't understand it, but I'll make you understand it. So the line is, it's by a rapper named Lil Wayne. Yeah, so the line is, real G's move in silence like lasagna. And I'll explain it to you. So a G is like, the letter G is an abbreviation for guy, like my guy, my G. What's up, my guy? What's up, my G? Like your friend, your brother, your homie. So real G's move in silence. So it's saying that real guys, they don't boast about what they're doing. They do all their stuff in silence. They don't have to prove themselves to anybody. So real G's move in silence like lasagna. Because in the word lasagna, the letter G is silent.
You're all my G's, and I had so much fun. Thank you. I had so much fun interacting with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for a very entertaining session. I would request Colonel D.S. Chima to please present them with mementos. Can we have a round of applause for the young ones?
I am so proud to be presenting. Maybe I am the oldest guy here. So it was my great pleasure and honor to be giving these. So happy. Thank you. But
well done.
Yes, अरे sorry, please come. Yeah, मेरे पास आओ आप. Come. Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Very well done.
I quote Martin Luther King Jr., "We are not makers of history, we are made by history," unquote. With this said, we move on to our next session, Chronicles of Yesterday. The panelists for the same are Mr. Mandeep Rai. He joined the Indian Revenue Service in 1973 and retired in 2009 as Director General of Income Tax Investigation. In 1966, he had joined IIT Bombay to do a course in chemical engineering, but left midway to pursue creative writing. He is the author of 4 novels, In the Shadow of the Pines, No Friends, No Enemies, When the Vulture Descends, and The Wheel of Destiny. We welcome you, sir, with a round of applause. Please come on the stage. He will be joined by Dr. Ranjit Pawar. Dr. Ranjit Pawar retired from the Punjab Civil Services in 2014 and now pursues her passions of writing, traveling, and teaching. A psychologist by qualification, she currently trains teachers and counsels students from rural schools in Punjab. She is a freelance writer and has authored 2 books. Dr. Pawar also runs a free international helpline for psychological telecounseling. Welcome, ma'am. Please join us on stage. Our moderator for the session, Colonel Avinash Sharma, is a... I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Avnish Sharma is a former cavalry officer who served the Indian Army for 28 years. He's a regular guest columnist with the Hindustan Times and writes middles for the Tribune and other national dailies. He bases his stories on anecdotes imbibed during army days and links them with everyday life happenings, thus bridging the gap between the Indian Armed Forces and civil society. Welcome, sir. Please join us on stage, and apologies for the mispronunciation.
Thank you. You don't need to seek pardon. It took my wife about how many years to get my name right? Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Jai Hind. We are here with 2 authors of prominence, apart in their styles, the themes that they write on, and the content. One thing is common, that they are great storytellers. And storytelling, ladies and gentlemen, is the bedrock of fiction writing. Mr. Mandeep Rai, a former IITian, former Chief Commissioner of Income Tax, has 4 books to his credit. Today he is here with us to largely talk about his book, In the Shadow of the Pines. Dr. Ranjit Pawar, a psychologist, she runs an NGO like you all have been introduced, is here to present her debut novel. That's your debut novel, ma'am?
Yes, yes.
Dusk Over the Mustard Fields. Now, before I invite them to start talking about their works, I must share my impressions as a reader of these 2 books. In the Shadow of the Pines will transport you to the thick of the British Raj, the mid-19th century, under Lord Dalhousie. And what happened then in the country will warm your heart, quite contrary to what our general perception is about British Raj. Dusk Over the Mustard Fields is a very compact, pre-partition Punjabi rural setup story which depicts the society and the culture that existed at that time, which largely also exists today. Male dominated, but some women of substance and discretion. Now, without much ado, I'll invite the author duo, and my love for mustard fields would prompt me to say, ladies first, ma'am. Would you tell us, now I must caution you that I have been warned that the time has been cut from 45 minutes to 30 minutes in the interest of high tea which is being laid out. And may we request you to talk about your book, please.
Hello friends, first of all a big thanks to the organizers for giving me this opportunity to talk to you all, which is very important for a writer, because when we write, we want to give you a message, we want to say something, and what better way to say it, रूबरू होकर सबसे बेहतर है अपनी बात कहना. So I would say that dusk over the mustard fields had been a concept in my mind since a very long time. But when one is in the services, it is difficult to find time to write. But I have been collecting narratives. And I am a keen reader, and I tried to find what all was written about Punjab earlier. There might be enough in the Punjabi literature. I think we have very good writers who captured the essence of Punjab in that era, the pre-partition, undivided Punjab. But I found very little in the English language, and I wanted to capture that era with its cultural nuances, with its traditions, which we have lost and which our present generation or our future generation will never know. So that is basically what really drove me to write this, and for this I recorded narratives from my grandmother, from my mother and other people of their age, and also from army officers. My own father was, and I learned a lot of things from him about what things were like in those days, and I want. So now, it's a simple story, like you said, and some of the basic things that I wanted to say here was, it's an observation. It is not preaching. It is not what should have been or what should not have been. I leave the reader to draw those conclusions. So the protagonist of this book is a woman called Nimmo, who belongs to a high-status rural family. And yet, belonging to a high-status family, what is her life like? What does she go through? It is the average life story of a woman in those days. And the book talks about patriarchy, it talks about the British Indian Army, and it talks about how we as individuals have a balance of both the good and the bad. I truly believe that there might be some heroes in life or some heroines, but they're very few. Most of us have our human sides, which sometimes go weak, which are sometimes larger than life. And I have tried and I've researched about it, about the little ways of life in those times. What did people wear? What did they eat? What did their day consist of? How did they relate to each other? And there is one deeper message, and that is communal harmony, which unfortunately was torn apart when Punjab, more than any other part of the country, was partitioned. So that is an additional message. And since I'm told that we have very little time, I think I'll pass the mic, and I do hope that you can read the book and draw your own conclusions. Thank you.
Thank you. Ma'am, I must confess that your book is so simple and so lucid. It took me precisely 1.5 to 2 hours to go through it. It's so easy flowing, and actually I could have taken more time, but my friend Hardeep just sent it to me at the 11th hour, and my primary occupation doesn't allow me to go to a bookstore these days. Don't ask me my primary occupation. But,
You have a dog at home.
you have Teddy at home, ma'am?
Yes, that's my primary occupation.
No, I wish my daughter-in-law is also here. She's been scrambling to get a dog for the grandson, but there is a big hurdle, and that we'll talk over high tea, ma'am. Now, sir, about the pines.
Thank you. In the Shadow of the Pines is basically one man's vision of changing the destiny of the subcontinent. I'm referring to Lord Dalhousie. He was only 36 when he came as Governor General of India, and it was his dream of creating an urban-based society in the subcontinent. He wanted to unite this society by the means of architecture. Prior to his coming to India, the British had only military engineers. He introduces British civil engineers and architects to India. And in a pep talk to them, he says, let each building become a repository of faith and hope and trust. Raise those portals high where the young will come in quest of a dream for learning. Let each building represent us. I would rather have more buildings than regiments. This last line is an original quote. Now, what happens is, a lot of people ask me, is this book pro the British Raj? No, it is not. It is in fact, to the contrary, a book about the unification of India. I open with the prologue, which is the first Anglo-Sikh war. The most important battle in the first Anglo-Sikh war was the Battle of Firozshah. The British lost that battle very clearly and decisively. The Governor-General, Sir Henry Harding, agreed to take the battlefield under the command of the Commander-in-Chief, General Gough. What the Sikh army did, they opened up their artillery at midnight. Very close, concealed gun positions were there, very close to the British position, the Bengal army. And such was the ferocity of the barrage that General Gough and his part of the army went into defensive deployment. And the battlefield was lit up whenever the shells were fired. And the Sikhs could make out that the other side is being led by another lord, which was Sir Henry Harding. Sir Henry Harding had lost his left hand in the Battle of Ligny 2 days prior to the Battle of Waterloo. And he was controlling the horse, and his army was still fighting. But at 4 a.m., he went into his tent and asked his ADC where is my ceremonial sword? So they dug it up from his luggage, and he found it was muggy. So he says, polish it. The Sikhs will laugh at us. This is again an original quote. And why was he keen to polish it? Because next morning he was to present it as an instrument of surrender. Ladies and gentlemen, I leave it to you to visualize if that surrender had taken place. The Commander-in-Chief of the Indian Army would have surrendered. He was on the battlefield. Sir Henry Harding, the Governor-General of India and the Governor of Bengal, in those days they were common, was also on the battlefield. He would have surrendered. And the Sikh army would have demanded a portion of the British Raj. What would have happened? In those days, Ambala was a border station. The Satluj was the border. But Providence intervened. The Sikh general deserted the battlefield because he had already been compromised by the British. General Tej Singh. Prior to him, General Lal Singh in the Battle of Mutki had revealed the battle plans. So what happens is that the Sikhs lose this battle. And then the Battle of Sobran is fought and the British prevail in the First Anglo-Sikh War. So, after the Second Anglo-Sikh War, which the novel covers totally, the Punjab, that is Maharaja Ranjit Singh's kingdom, the areas of the Lahore Darbar were annexed. And throughout the book, Lord Dalhousie is goading his architects and engineers. And why the title In the Shadow of the Pines? Because Simla and Kasauli are being developed. And may I read out a portion, please, if there is 2 minutes available? Or
you can read out a couple of punchlines. You
All right,
already.
all right, punchlines I remember.
Okay.
Punchlines. You see, the military engineers troubled this architect, Robert Birkinshaw, who's a brilliant chap. He's opted for India. And they somehow can't understand what is the role of an architect. They understand the role of an engineer, somebody who constructs barracks, etc. So, in a garden party at Rothney Castle, in those days, I've set the scene up in 1848. Rothney Castle, for those of you who are familiar with Simla, it's halfway up Jakku. And the bank was being rustic because it was at least 250 yards above the ridge. So there, Clara, a 19-year-old daughter of a colonel, she and Robert Birkinshaw are talking. And she says, I believe you had a quarrel of sorts. That's the difference in perception. He was unable to understand what I was trying to say. I was telling him these dark Elizabethan structures. No, Stirling Castle, Gorton Castle, Barnes Court, even what is now the Grand Hotel, it was in those days the Lord Sir Henry Harding's residence. All these dark Elizabethan structures are not for the mountains. What are we trying to show them? The power of man. The garrison engineer says the empire will last 1,000 years. So we need buildings to commemorate that. I'm sorry, the empire will fall and fade like every empire does, but these trees will live on.
That's a wonderful.
Well, I can talk about this book extempore for hours and hours and hours. But I'll tell you something, I'll end it on a personal note. I was Commissioner of Income Tax Appeals in Delhi, and this chartered accountant from Agra was appearing before me for the first time. So, as is the habit of chartered accountants, he would have inquired from the staff, what is Saab's passion, etc. So they told him he writes books. Saab kitaba likh denge. So he says, he came in, the hearing took very little time because of the covered point. Then he says, sir, now that the hearing is over, may I say one thing? I said, please. Sir, I'm a great admirer of yours. I said, oh. Sir, I've read your books. The knowledge of income tax you have, no one else has. So I came home and I related this incident. My younger son said, Papa, didn't you tell him that your books are not on income tax? I said, Beta, I didn't have the heart to break his heart. He had to shut me up.
Thank you, thank you. Ma'am, your book is so simply written. There are three things which stand out. One is the colonial Punjab rural setup, the environment that exists in the rural Punjab. The second is the plight of women. And the third is your portrayal of the communal bonhomie that existed before partition. Now, out of these three, which prompted you to write what you've written and what is...
Out of these three, I think every book has to have a multi-dimensional approach because life is multi-dimensional. So this is a slice out of life in those times. And what prompted me to write this book is that, as you would see, this book is based in Sahnewal. Sahnewal is now a very large village near Ludhiana, and it was also where my grandmother lived. And I spent many days there as a student, and it had a multi-religious community earlier. I saw the ruins of the masjid over there. They were Hindus, they were Sikhs, and most of the narratives came from my grandmother. So that was, I felt, something that one should recount in these days when, unfortunately, in our country, the communal fiber is disintegrating. I wanted to remind that it need not be so. It was not always so. And then about the patriarchy and the what women have been through. Unfortunately, Punjab, Haryana, or maybe I know more about these two states, they, like you mentioned, maybe marginally better, but things need to improve much more. That was the second obvious reason for me, and another was the nostalgia of the Indian British Army, what I heard about that, and how painful it was for the army to be divided when partition took place and people had to opt for going to Pakistan or to staying back in India. And I still have photographs at home of my father with his colleagues, Muslim colleagues who've gone to Pakistan, and how heart-rending it was for them to break up. And then more than anything else, I did want to document a certain way of life which is lost to us. So I did want to document the very ordinary rural Punjabi life and emotions and how people lived. That I feel is a link which youngsters need to know. They need to connect to that.
That's a good story, very, very interesting story. Sandeep sir, I'm a great fan of yours. We met earlier on stage at Kasoli for one of his books, some 4 years back. Sir.
Sorry, I thought you were going to say that he knows income tax so well.
No, I'm not a chartered accountant. So your penchant to get historical themes in almost all your works. You've written 4 books. I think 3 of them are based on historical themes. And then you weave, you have the talent to weave, that Frederick Forsyth, Ken Follett kind of excitement, and Arthur Haley of know-all, mastery of the story, and of course Daniel Steele's romanticism. That is Clara in Shimla, 19-year-old Clara with Robert Birkinshaw. I happened to read, ladies and gentlemen, one article by good old Shri Khushwant Singh ji, who had written in the Tribune solely an article on him, talking about him as one of the finds of the country, best writing skills and this, that and the other. And the first impression which came to mind was maybe his IT return is lying on your table for scrutiny. But then, sorry sir, I mean, it's in the lighter vein. I definitely, with your kind of, well-rounded and in-depth study, I definitely would not like my IT return on your desk. Tell me, with the kind of foray of topics that you touch, and ladies and gentlemen, you need to read his books. He writes, when he talks about military, it seems he's served in the military all his life. And when he talks about history, it seems he's the head of the Department of History of, one of the top universities in the country. It's how you get it, and amazingly correct. What makes you come to these themes, and how do you structure them to make it into an interesting reading, kind of research that you go into? But you haven't consulted me ever for military things.
I think over the paucity of time, I'll give an example.
Okay.
And that will explain the whole thing. When I was writing this, I came across the encounter at Ramnagar in the Second Sikh War. I was very nervous because I was naming actual officers, the ADCs to the Governor General, ADCs to the Commander-in-Chief by name, so and so. And they were having cameos. And there was the Urdu interpreter of General Duff. Somehow some message kept knocking at the back of my mind that what if one of these characters falls in battle in the Anglo-Sikh Wars, and I look a big fool if I still put him on in the next chapter. So I asked my army friends, actually my father and my brother both were in the Indian Army. All my other relatives I was the only exception. So I asked around. I told my brother, please get me the casualty list of the encounter at Ramnagar. He said, what are you talking? It is 1848 December. From where will I get it? Nahi mil raha tha. I was in Bombay and I scoured the CCI library, Cricket Club of India. Huge library they had. Couldn't find anything. So I asked the librarian. She said, sir, you've been looking for something. Can I help you? I said, is this all you've got? He says, yes, sir. Yeah, but so-and-so member has contributed his books. He had become a cripple. They are in the other corridor. So I went there, dark. I opened the cupboard. She gave me the keys. Full of dust. She switched on the light. I spent 1 hour there. And then I came across this book. It was as if God is placing it in my hands. Published in 1852 by a British Army officer. And as I went through, I got the budget of India for 1848, 49, 49, 50, 50, 51. And next page I turn, the casualty list of the encounter at Ramnagar. People ask me, isn't it simpler to do it on the internet? I said, not if God helps you. And the third name hit me in the eye. The Urdu interpreter of General Duff falls in battle. So I have set up a scene where Lord and Lady Dalhousie in Ambala visit his wife. And that's a very touching scene. So this is the kind of research you have.
Great, great. Now that we are with you, sir.
God is
Yeah.
the co-author?
God is the co-author.
God is-
I can tell you for sure, God is the co-author.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Now we are with you, sir, and this book, In the Shadow of the Pines, was you got motivated being in Shimla.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I read a tweet on somebody.
No, the literary digest in December.
Okay, yeah, Hardeep's literary digest. Yes. Can you few words about Shimla? Because it's so close to us and so dear to everybody's heart here, or was dear to everybody's heart.
You see, Hardeep ji asked me this question. How did your stay in Simla contribute to the writing of this book? My office was 3 kilometers away from my residence. I hated being late by even a minute. So I walked every day to the office and back. And most of the walk is under cedars and the pines. And every time I would go across that stretch, the shadow of the pines would be intersecting the sunlight. And that somehow stayed with me. And then the original title of this book was The Trees Live On, from what I narrated to you earlier. My publisher was dead against it. He says, Master, but you read this passage. He says, that is fine. But with a title like The Trees Live On, then somebody will think it's a book on biology. So I don't want that. Then they dug up this line. A new world is coming up in the shadow of the pines. It was part of the text. So I said, we want to keep this title. Go ahead, sir, please. So that is one thing. Then Hardeep ji was insistent. He's very insistent, very quietly. So he says, no, but you tell me, how did it help you? I said, in a simple one-line answer, if I hadn't been posted to Simla, this book would never have been written. Because I was on an official tour of Kasauli. I'll give you the date, 30th of August 1982. And my wife used to rave about Kasauli because her Nanaji had a house there. And we took this early morning walk from the circuit house, passing the club, and I stopped by the house owned by the Hotz family, the Hotelier family. And such was their beautiful garden. And I said, look at the peace these people would have known. The silence, the tranquility, the serenity, to design something like this. And I said, look at the buildings of Simla, huge monstrosities and dark Elizabethan structures. So I want to write a novel contrasting the two. It started off as that, but then history took over. Because when I found that Lord Dalhousie had Benthamite ideals, and the twin planks of Benthamite ideals are welfarism and utilitarianism. And the railways play a huge part. That's what I wanted to cover. But anyway, that you see, Lord Dalhousie, as cabinet minister between 1843 to 1845 in England, had overseen the laying of the railway network between England and Scotland. And he said the steam engine is more responsible for uniting England with Scotland rather than any treaty preceding that, the laying out of the railway network. So he wanted to replicate that in India. And if I may say, ladies and gentlemen, my father was in the Indian Army. Whenever we went on annual leave, I found the Rural Society of Punjab, which he has just narrated, was totally different from the urban-based society. And rural societies throughout India are not like one another. Gujarati rural society is different, Maharashtrian rural society is different, all over India. Even within Punjab, there are several rural societies. But the common feature of this land is that the urban-based society is common, and they can communicate with each other. There are institutions of the Indian Army. The Indian Army, incidentally, is legacy present of the British Raj, the discipline, etc. Look at Pakistan. They keep interfering and toppling governments. Our army is an army where discipline matters, where honor matters. They have to write themselves and calling. So that's the difference. There's so much more, but
yeah, so Shimla gave you this book and happiness for life, and Shimla gave me my wife and happiness well for 7 lives.
And she allows you to play golf. She allows you to play golf.
Very kind of her. You see, the misnomer about golf widows, actually these ladies want you to get out of their hair. But they have to live up to the old traditions that, it's a bad game, some other time. So, one last thing with Dr. Saab. Ma'am, Nimmo, that is the central character of yours, has shades of grey.
Sorry?
Shades of grey.
Yes, she has shades of grey.
She has leanings for this guy called Ashraf.
Yes.
Ashraf and Akhtar, sorry. Akhtar. Then she shows a lot of open disdain for Hamsa.
Hansa. That is a co-wife.
That is her Sultan. And then she has a child, whosoever child that is, she leaves that child. And she gets back to this guy, Akhtar, and she elopes with him. How do you justify this?
How do you justify human nature? How do you and why do you justify human nature? You don't. How do you justify all the patriarchs in that story? How do you justify her own father victimizing his dim-witted brother to get his property? How do you justify her, the father-in-law who is raping the maid in their house? And we all know this has gone on for centuries in villages. How do you justify a husband who is an army officer marrying for the second time? And I heard this, my father used to say that very many officers, when they got commission, the first thing they would do is go marry an educated girl for the second time, leave the first wife in the village, and they would say, "Ki onu uchna baithna nahi aunda." So how do you justify all that? I protected us as just one woman.
Very good answer, ma'am. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, your questions please for both these authors.
Ma'am, can I ask you, you're sitting, your book is on patriarchy, and you're sitting amongst two gentlemen who just set examples of a lot of that, if I may say so. समझने वाले समझ गए, ना समझे नहीं. So, do you think things have changed?
I think that things have changed considerably, and I also think that we need to change things, not only the gentlemen. And I think patriarchy was also carried out through women.
Absolutely.
Even though the male was the controlling factor, but we have to change.
Yeah, we had lot more patriarchal, mothers
They
than
were modes.
our fathers.
They were modes of patriarchy.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes. So, and I have my protagonist over here is a woman. Yes.
But the narrative that we just saw an example of is that every point, time and time again, until date, the blame comes on the woman. She is questioned at all points of time. Nobody questions the man. Do you think that has changed?
No, not much. And so what if the questions are there, stand up and answer. And answer without inhibition. That's the answer, right?
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
May I just ask one question to my
Absolutely, absolutely.
So what are you writing now?
I'm working on another historical.
Oh, well, that's interesting.
The research is on. I spent a lot of time revising this and adding a few things here and there. So, the CD given by my old publisher, because this was first published in 1996 and launched in Sanaa in March 96. Then he launched it again in Sanaa, the second edition, 25th anniversary edition. Nadeep ji has included the synopsis of the novel in this edition. He says, I'm making it a designer copy.
And even though I've not been asked, I would like to say this before I wind up, that women have not been written about in history. They've not been given a voice. And I write mostly about women. My third book is done now. It's in the pipeline. And it is about women too. This is about, and one would think that Maharaja Ranjit Singh was quite a recent historical figure, but you don't find anything in the Sikh Raj which speaks about the women. So I have written about the women in Maharaja Ranjit Singh's life, and surprisingly I had to work very hard to find even little tidbits about them. Thank you so much. Thank you for
Thank you very much.
Thank you, speakers. Please stay on the I would like to invite Lieutenant General Bhupinder Singh to present the mementos for speakers. I would now like to invite on stage the co-founder of Novel Punch, Ms. Saguna Jain, to deliver the vote of thanks. She is a media consultant and communications expert and the founder of Fundamentals Consultancy Group and Intuitive Ventures, companies engaged in designing and publishing in-house magazines for clubs, hotels, corporates, etc. A columnist and motivational speaker, she has been teaching in various institutes since 1992. Over to you, ma'am.
Good evening, everybody. Now we started with a good morning, and we are already at a good evening. And I'm sure all of you will agree with me when I say that we really don't know how this day is just gone by. I think we've had some amazing sessions, and I have enjoyed every bit of it, and I hope all of you have as well. This, by the way, is not the end. Picture abhi baki hai, thodi si. But to add another novel element to this incredible day, we thought, in order to not undermine the value of a thank you, we will do a thank you a little before we end this day. So I will start by thanking Infosys before anybody else. I think without Infosys, their incredible hospitality that we all experienced in the afternoon, I don't think we would have been able to pull this off at all. So thank you very much. Now the only problem, guys, is that everybody is asking us, you've set the bar so high, how the hell are you going to keep up? So I guess we're just going to keep coming back to you. Can we do this once again? Can we do this once again? And this thank you to Infosys will be incomplete without a thank you to Vivek Katre here. Because I think without his good offices with Infosys, they would have probably not even known who we are. Okay, so thank you so much. And thank you Vivek for always being there for us and helping us with this wholeheartedly as always. We can curate these sessions We can design them, we can try and bring you really varied topics. But if we do not have, people here who come and execute it so amazingly well, and the audience who's been here, I mean, a lot of you have been here since the morning, and I have sat through the entire day. And I can see that, and in fact, I must add here that when I was speaking to the speakers who were walking in the morning, I did tell them that we do not promise you 500 people in the audience, but we do promise you 100 plus of the most discerning audience that you would ever find in any Lit Fest, and I think we have managed to do it. Just to run the day through, I think we started beautifully with the keynote address and the defense and the travel, the music and the lovely teenagers who were here, and winding it up with history. I think we did try to make every session very different from the other to give you as much variety as we could here. And as you all noticed, novel bunch, vibrant, incredible. The idea is to strive and tell everybody that literature is not boring. Literature can be very interesting, so please do not, just like Panditji here said, do not be shy of classical concerts. I would like to say, please do not be shy of literature festivals. And our effort is going to be to try and make it more interesting. We included music today, which is also to tell you all that the appreciation of all creative arts is what we intend to do in the future. And I do hope that all of you will be as supportive for us in the future as you have been today. It's been an incredible day, guys. You guys have been an incredible audience. Infosys, you have been totally, totally incredible. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you.
I would like to invite Dr. Mandeep Walia to present a memento to Ms. Saguna.
I was thinking in my mind, maybe a hall might be thinking some new people or some new form of new way of living has come in. Because the people sitting in this hall generally have been talking from here, and maybe this is the very first time they got a chance to hear about people who have been talking from here and singing and music, etc. So we try to continue the tradition in our culture also. Thank you very much.
The day is not over yet. It's time for our last session, the open mic. I would like to introduce you to our speakers, Ms. Alka Kansra. Ms. Alka Kansra superannuated from the prestigious MCM DAV College, Chandigarh as head of Department of Chemistry. Her Hindi poetry books include Peediyon Ke Kshitij and Zindagi Kavita Ho Gayi. She was awarded with the Kavya Shri Samman 2022 by Vishwa Hindi Rachnakar Manch. Welcome, ma'am. Please come on. Our next speaker, Colonel V.P. Singh, retired from the army in 2020. He writes poetry in Urdu, English and Hindi. He has authored a book titled Zindagi Aaj Mujhe Jeene De. Welcome, sir. Please come up on the stage. Our next speaker, Ms. Nagina Benz, a master's in sociology, is a career coach, psychologist, and English language trainer. She is also a Cornell University alumni with several years in a multitude of industries, including DLF, UNWTO, etc. She has had an illustrious career in TV and print media, both as an anchor and writer. She is currently the chairperson of the CII's Indian Women Network for the Tri-City. Can we have a round of applause for her? Master practitioner, an innovative meditative art teacher and author. As a lifelong student of arts, she helped companies in India and Middle East to develop imaginative advertising, web development, and digital marketing concepts for 27 years. Please come on the stage, ma'am. A round of applause for all our speakers. I think we can begin with Ms. Alka.
evening, everybody. I think this is the last session, and we were told the one writer. I think I'm loud enough. So, but before I start with the poetry, I'll just need 10 seconds because I've been, as she just announced, I was teaching chemistry for 40 years in MCMDAV. And post-retirement, like Nilesh sir started writing at 60, I also started writing. So I can easily say you can take me out of science, but you cannot take science out of me. So the poetry which I am reciting today has got a bit of science. I usually incorporate that, or it gets incorporated automatically. So I'll just explain in a small line, Tyndall effect. I've written this poetry about Tyndall effect. It is, आप लोगों ने देखा होगा, when you are right on a misty morning, when you come out, suddenly trees के बीच में से rays ऐसे spread हो रही हैं, or through a window, especially during the winters, the light suddenly comes as a streak and it spreads, and you can see the dust particles floating in between. We scientifically call it as Tyndall effect. So now I come to my poetry. I have titled it as 1,000 Suns. I am 6. In a childhood home in the hills, sitting in the kitchen on a winter morning. I'm 6, in a childhood home in the hills, sitting in the kitchen on a winter morning, sunlight creeping in through a narrow slit in the door. Sunlight creeping in through a narrow slit in the door. The light is spreading. I see 1,000 sparkles dancing. Is the sun breaking up into 1,000 suns? I ask Ma. Is the sun breaking into 1,000 suns? I ask Ma. Yes, she says. To fill your life with light, to make your life shining bright. To fill your life with light, to make your life shining bright. I am 16. In a lecture in my physics class, a beam of light gets scattered by the suspended particles in air, the Tyndall effect. Particles moving in a zigzag random movement, the Brownian motion. I'm disappointed. My ma lied. No 1,000 little suns, only the suspended particles scattering the light. Only the suspended particles scattering the light. I'm 60. I'm 60. On a misty morning, I can see the sunlight emerging through the trees. I'm 60. On a misty morning, I can see the sunlight emerging through the trees, emerging through the mist. I can see the Tyndall effect. I can see the Brownian motion. I smile and see 1,000 suns dancing. I smile and I see 1,000 suns dancing. Ma was not lying. She never lies. I feel the light in my life. I feel the light in my life. I feel my life shining bright. It's the magic that your heart can see. It's the magic that your heart can see. I would show 1,000 suns to my little grandson. I would show 1,000 suns to my lovely granddaughter. Thank you very much.
A very warm and a committed Jai Hind to you all. I am Colonel VP Singh. I have just driven down from Palampur, reached here today. एक अरसे से सिर्फ जिंदा हूँ, एक अरसे से सिर्फ जिंदा हूँ, जिंदगी आज मुझको जीने दे. एक अरसे से सिर्फ जिंदा हूँ, जिंदगी आज मुझको जीने दे. I have to stand up for what I'm going to recite to you because, and if you don't mind, I'll go to that corner. मैंने हमेशा इसी फॉर्मेट में कहानियाँ पढ़ी हैं, तो से लेटा था मैं. हिंदी है, I'm sure आप लोग समझ पाएंगे इसको. श्वेत हिमशैया थी जिस पर शान से लेटा था मैं, माँ तेरी सेवा समर्पित हो चुका बेटा था मैं। श्वेत हिमशैया थी जिस पर शान से लेटा था मैं, माँ तेरी सेवा समर्पित हो चुका बेटा था मैं। आन की रक्षा को तेरी जान तक दी शान से, कर दिया सर्वस्व अर्पण प्रण हुआ ना नर्म मेरा। मैं हूं सैनिक युद्ध केवल धर्म मेरा। I'm going to narrate you an incident. This was 1992 at Sonam Post. 21,000 feet height, about minus 26 degree temperature. हम लोग हेलीपैड के ऊपर, सोनम पे एक हेलीपैड है। जनरली वहाँ पे बर्फ इतनी ज़्यादा गिरी होती है कि 35, 40, 50, 60 फुट बर्फ वहाँ पे होती है हमेशा। पर जो हेलीपैड है उसको हमने कट करके वो क्लियर करके हार्ड आइस रखते हैं जिससे कि हेलीकॉप्टर लैंड हो सके वहाँ पे। We were waiting for the helicopter to come. Few people to go back home on छुट्टी. We were waiting for letters. Nayak Gurpal of 3 Sikhlai, who was part of the platoon, he was along with us waiting there. Pakistan की shelling हुई और unfortunately most of the shells used, so they were harmless. But जो शेल 120 mm मोटर का हेलीपैड के ऊपर गिरा वो बस काम में लगा। 4-5 इंच के स्किन के साथ में द लेग वाज डैंगलिंग। इमीडिएटली ही वाज जस्ट नेक्स्ट टू मी। मैंने उसको पकड़ा अच्छी तरह से, अपनी चोट को ना देखे उसका मुंह खींच के रखा। You know, the air pressure is so low at such altitude that the blood was being sucked out and the entire helipad was red. We lost him. In fact, before that, I held his head. मैंने कहा गुरपाल की हाल है? कहने साहब fit a fruity plow. Fruity we used to keep in our jacket so that with our body warmth वो freeze ना हो जाए उस temperature पे। मैंने जैकेट से फ्रूटी निकाली, उसके मुंह में निचोड़ा, but by then we lost him. That night I wrote this poem, and this poem is dedicated to Gurpal. श्वेत हिमशैया थी जिस पर शान से लेटा था मैं। अंतिम शब्द एक शहीद के। श्वेत हिमशैया थी जिस पर शान से लेटा था मैं, माँ तेरी सेवा समर्पित हो चुका बेटा था मैं। आन की रक्षा को तेरी जान तक दी शान से, कर दिया सर्वस्व अर्पण प्रण हुआ ना नर्म मेरा। मैं हूं सैनिक युद्ध केवल धर्म मेरा। ऑपरेशन मेघदूत इज गोइंग ऑन देयर। देश के हम पूत बनकर, देश के हम पूत बनकर, मेघ के हम दूत बनकर, छाए थे बैरी के सिर पर, हम हुए यमदूत बनकर। देश के हम पूत बनकर, मेघ के हम दूत बनकर, छाए थे बैरी के सिर पर, हम हुए यमदूत बनकर। गोलों की वर्षा थी भीषण हो रहा हिमपात भी, गोलों की वर्षा थी भीषण हो रहा हिमपात भी। हृदय दारुण शत्रु के करता लहू था गर्म मेरा। मैं हूं सैनिक युद्ध केवल धर्म मेरा। Now what he says, छोड़कर जाता हूं मैं अपने अधूरे काम को, छोड़कर जाता हूं मैं अपने अधूरे काम को, और है बालक तेरे अब आज्ञा दे विश्राम को। छोड़कर जाता हूं मैं अपने अधूरे काम को, और है बालक तेरे अब आज्ञा दे विश्राम को। आखिरी कण रक्त का जब तक रहा लड़ता रहा, मृत्यु जीवन दायिनी हो करे अंतिम कर्म मेरा। मैं हूं सैनिक युद्ध केवल धर्म मेरा। I'm sorry, I'm personally involved with this poem. I wish छोड़कर जाता हूं मैं अपने अधूरे काम को, और है बालक तेरे अब आज्ञा दे विश्राम को। आखिरी कण रक्त का जब तक रहा लड़ता रहा, मृत्यु जीवन दायिनी हो करे अंतिम कर्म मेरा, मैं हूं सैनिक युद्ध केवल धर्म मेरा। There's so many of us, so many of them whose bodies could not be found. They could not be even cremated properly. So मृत्यु जीवन दायिनी हो करे अंतिम कर्म मेरा। तो मृत्यु ने ही उनका क्रियाकर्म किया है, वो उनके अपने लोगों ने उनका क्रियाकर्म वो नहीं कर पाए। मृत्यु जीवन दायिनी हो करे अंतिम कर्म मेरा, मैं हूं सैनिक युद्ध केवल धर्म मेरा। शहीद क्या मैसेज देता है अपने देशवासियों को? प्रथा यह चलती रहेगी, प्रथा यह चलती रहेगी, प्रथा यह चलती रहेगी, बलि यूं ही चढ़ती रहेगी, मां तेरे वीरों को किंचित वीर गति मिलती रहेगी। प्रथा यह चलती रहेगी, बलि यूं ही चढ़ती रहेगी, मां तेरे वीरों को किंचित वीर गति मिलती रहेगी। विदा लेते एक मन की बात कहता हूं तुझे। प्रथा यह चलती रहेगी, बलि यूं ही चढ़ती रहेगी, मां तेरे वीरों को किंचित वीर गति मिलती रहेगी। विदा लेते एक मन की बात कहता हूं तुझे, देश को दे देना केवल बस यही तू मर्म मेरा, मैं हूं सैनिक युद्ध केवल धर्म मेरा। और आखिरी बंद है इस कविता का, वो कहता है कि जीत का सहरा तुम्हारा, जीत का सहरा तुम्हारा, हार का दुखड़ा तुम्हारा, जीत का सहरा तुम्हारा, हार का दुखड़ा तुम्हारा, साथी अपने खो के मैं तो जीत कर हर बार हारा। जीत का सहरा तुम्हारा, हार का दुखड़ा तुम्हारा, साथी अपने खो के मैं तो जीत कर हर बार हारा। जाते जाते एक विनती देश तुझसे करता हूं, जाते जाते एक विनती देश तुझसे करता हूं, नमन तुम वीरों का करना रहे उन्नत कर्म मेरा, मैं हूं सैनिक युद्ध केवल धर्म मेरा, मैं हूं सैनिक युद्ध केवल धर्म मेरा, मैं हूं सैनिक युद्ध केवल। थैंक यू सर, बहुत बहुत Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Gratitude to Vivek sir and Hardeep sir who remembered me. That's how I'm here. So very kind of you, all of you.
Thank you. That was wonderful. Some of the words are internal too. I'm going to narrate one of those. So, I have to confess before I start that this is my maiden attempt at sharing my poetry beyond my writing table and the dining table. So, I've spoken in various public forums, but poetry, yes, I'm reciting for the first time. I'm going to start with a short nazm that I wrote a while back, and it's untitled so far. सोचूं थोड़ा या फिर एक बात लिखूं, सोचूं थोड़ा या फिर एक बात लिखूं, दास्तां लिखूं या गुलिस्तान लिखूं, वो लिखूं या ये लिखूं, हम लिखूं या थे कभी वो लिखूं, दिले हालात लिखूं या महकती हुई मोहब्बत की कायनात लिखूं, तेरे जनून को अल्फाजों में लिखूं या अपने जिस्म से याद बेहिसाब लिखूं, जो बीत गया वो आबाद लिखूं या जो अभी बच गया वो बर्बाद लिखूं, तुझे इश्क और खुद को फनकार लिखूं या तू ख्वाब और मैं बेहिसाब मोहब्बत की एक अकेली वफादार लिखूं, तुझे जन्नत और खुद को जहन्नुम लिखूं, या क्या आज तू दिन और मैं रात लिखूं? बताना आज कौन सी बात लिखूं? There's one more. That was more of a confession. This is more of a long-term wish. Niyaze Kadeem. This is titled. It's titled Kash. जब आफताब साथी था, जब आफताब साथी था और आसमान मेरा सपना, जब मैं एक पखेरू और हवा मेरे पंख, जब जन्नत मेरी झोली में और जान हथेली में, जब तारे ज़मीन पर और सितारा बाहों में, जब दिन भी मेरा और रात भी मेरी, जब साज भी मैं और आवाज़ भी मेरी, जब गीत भी मैं और फनकार भी मेरा, जब शायराना भी मैं और शायरी भी मेरी, जब महफिल भी मैं और ताजे महफिल भी मेरी, जब गिला भी मैं और शिकवे भी मेरे, जब बातें भी मेरी और बैठक भी मेरी, जब वादियाँ भी मेरी और वादे भी मेरे, जब अंजुमन की शान भी मेरी और अंजुम भी मेरा, जब पिलाने वाला भी मेरा और नशा भी मैं, जब सारा कहकशा भी मेरा और कहानी भी मेरी, जब सांसें उसकी और नब्ज मेरी, और फिर वो तूफान भी मेरा और आने वाली बारिश भी मेरी, जब वो सब टूटने वाले भी मेरे और तोड़ने वाला भी मेरा, जब तबाही भी मेरी और तबाह सिर्फ मेरे, वो कभी ना सच होने वाला झूठ हमारा और ये हकीकत मेरी, जब अब मौत भी मेरी और मारने वाला भी मेरा, अब जनाजा उठाने वाला भी मेरा और रोने वाले भी मेरे, जब अब दिल नहीं मेरा और जान नहीं उसकी, जब अब तू नहीं मेरा और मैं नहीं तेरी। Thank you.
It's amazing. Okay, there must be some perks for being the last speaker. Maybe I can carry on and not let you go home. Okay, first of all, during the day I've heard so many things. Are we evolving? Are we changing in the services, homes, offices? And the one thing that I want to thank everybody today is that I am here not for a literary word. And for me to be here is such a big change, because I know that it's all about the literary functions like this. So for honoring me and to let me come here of creativity, but it's through art and it's not the literary word. So yes, we are evolving, and thank you so much, Suneni, Shokana, Vivek, for having me and everybody else to let me be here part of this. Because of my expression, but through art. My name is Anu Singh. I've had a long career of 27 years in the advertising and digital marketing field. I was the director of a company, but the one designation, which is artist, I think means way more to me now than any other designation that I've had. I gave up my job of 27 years. I accomplished a lot. I raised my two daughters single-handed. But there was always a nagging feeling inside that I'm incomplete. So I gave up my job. The fear was there of not knowing what I want to do at that age. So I call myself a constant learner. I did my, Zentangle came to me. I'm a certified Zentangle teacher. I went to the US, learned that. Then I traveled a lot, trying to get my creativity back, because it took me years to come to that point. And I met artists, and I met an artist who told me and worked with me. I stayed in the art place, and I worked straight away with a pencil again, with a line. I worked with a stroke, and through those strokes and lines, I realized that it's all about the journey. You can create a huge artwork, but it always starts with that one line, one stroke. So I have created paintings, big, huge canvases just with lines. And I just keep working on lines. And the other thing that sets me apart is that when I did my NLP, which is neuro-linguistic programming, the one lesson I learned from that was to be flexible. And you'll find that in all my books also. There'll always be a page on flexibility. Because whenever something has happened, I've always known how to get out of that situation and move ahead. Or if plan A doesn't work, then plan B. If plan B doesn't work, then plan C. But I'll always have a plan, I'll always have a goal. And I think NLP also helped me to put that in place. I'm here with my book, which is a coloring book. Why is it different from other coloring books? Because I've hand drawn each page. It's handcrafted. It's printed on beautiful 300 GSM paper. Usually coloring books are digitally produced. Here each page is handcrafted and it's got a beautiful message. So you can spend hours coloring, and coloring helps you de-stress. It lets you focus, and because it's such a fun activity, it's not stressful to do. It uses both sides of the brain because the logic makes you stay inside the line, and your creativity flows while you're coloring. So there are multiple benefits. I've also brought these little cards today so that you can start your creative journey. Please take one of them from me and start your creative journey. And so this is the book that I'm very, very proud of. I'm coming up with another one which is on popular demand. Lots of people have asked me for a pocket book. And I'm also coming up with a children's book. So this is my passion. And I'm really, really grateful that I'm here. And I can see that we are evolving, that I'm here because of a coloring book. So it means a lot to me. So thank you for
Thank you, speakers, for those beautifully moved words. I would like to invite Mr. Ajit Ahluwalia to present mementos this week. Can we have a round of applause for
Thank you so much. I think even that open mic session went off really, really beautifully. It was very enjoyable. I'm just here briefly only to thank the team.